Revenge Office Stories. My boss thought he could steal my life's work and get away with it. He forgot one tiny detail. I built the entire system he was now supposedly in charge of. This is the story of how I used a single, perfectly placed line of code to bring his whole house of cards crashing down. This wasn't just about destruction. It was about exposing the truth that was hiding in plain sight for the whole company to see. This wasn't revenge. It was a digital reckoning, and I executed it with surgical precision. Before the storm, things were simple. It was just me, a 28-year-old developer with more passion than sense and a blank canvas. The company was a tiny tech startup, and I was one of the first people they hired. My project, my baby, was codenamed Nexus. It wasn't just another piece of software. It was designed to be the company's central nervous system, a revolutionary data analytics platform for our e-commerce clients that could predict market trends with almost spooky accuracy. I wasn't just a coder on the project. I was its architect. I laid every brick, every digital beam. For 2 years, my life was a blur of late nights fueled by stale coffee and the pure, unfiltered joy of building something from nothing. That office was my sanctuary. The whiteboards were covered in what looked like chaos to anyone but me. My desk was a graveyard of empty energy drink cans and notebooks filled with algorithms that literally came to me in my sleep. I knew every line of code, every database call, and every weird little bug because I wrote them. If a server crashed at 3 a.m., it was my phone that rang. I was the ghost in the machine, the quiet engine that made the whole thing go. And for a while, it was glorious. We were building something that felt important. I poured my heart and soul into Nexus, and I was naive enough to think that in the world of corporate ambition, good work was the only thing that mattered. That was my first mistake. The system was beautiful, a complex ecosystem that hummed along with an elegance no one else could fully appreciate. It was my masterpiece, a testament to thousands of hours of work. My colleagues would joke that I could probably debug the system in my sleep, and honestly, they weren't wrong. I felt this deep, almost primal connection to my creation. It wasn't just a job, it was my identity. I was the Nexus girl. That profound connection, that intimate knowledge of every digital nook and cranny, was something I took for granted. I never imagined it would one day need to become a weapon. But a snake was about to enter my digital garden, and he didn't care about the architecture. He only cared about who got to put their name on the front door. His name was Richard. He was hired from the outside to be our new VP of engineering. The official story was that he was here to bring structure and professionalize our processes as we geared up to scale. He walked in on day one like he already owned the place, wearing an absurdly expensive suit that just screamed, "I don't belong here." He was all charisma, with a dazzling smile and a vocabulary made up of nothing but corporate buzzwords. He'd talk about synergy, paradigm shifts, and leveraging our assets with a slick confidence that completely hypnotized the non-technical execs. But to us in the trenches, the engineers, he was a giant red flag. He didn't get the code. He couldn't grasp the architecture. He'd sit in our technical meetings, nodding like he understood, but his questions were always painfully superficial. He'd ask things like, "So, are we using the cloud for this?" while we were in the middle of a deep dive on database indexing. It was like a chef asking a baker if the recipe involved food. His routine became obvious pretty fast. He'd wander around, asking us what we were working on. Then, in the big executive meetings, he'd present our ideas and our progress as his own brilliant strategies. A new feature I'd been developing for a month became a Q3 goal I've set for the team. A nasty bug my colleagues spent a week hunting down was casually mentioned as an issue I flagged last week, which we've now resolved. At first, it was just annoying. You know, the kind of corporate posturing you roll your eyes at and try to ignore. I told myself he was just trying to look good. But it wasn't harmless, it was practice. He was testing the waters, seeing what he could get away with. And every time no one called him on it, he got bolder. He was a parasite in a well-tailored suit, and he was about to find his perfect host, my life's work. For the last 6 months, I had been working on my masterpiece. It was a secret project I poured my evenings and weekends into. I called it Project Chimera. It was a new predictive algorithm, a quantum leap beyond anything Nexus could currently do. It used a novel form of machine learning to not just analyze existing data, but to model future market behavior with jaw-dropping accuracy. It was the key that would turn Nexus from a great tool into an industry-defining platform. The code was dense, intricate, and deeply personal. When I finally felt it was ready, I made a terrible mistake. I decided to show it to Richard. I booked a meeting, my heart pounding with pride and anxiety. I walked him through the whole thing, the concept, the math, the incredible results from my tests. He just stared at the screen, his usual slick smile gone, replaced by a look of pure, raw greed. I saw a glint in his eye I should have recognized right away. He laid the praise on thick, calling it brilliant and game-changing. Then he delivered the fatal line. "This is too big for a normal feature rollout," he said, his voice dripping with fake sincerity. "We need to keep this under wraps for the big investor pitch next month. Keep it on a private branch. Don't document it anywhere. We'll make a huge splash." Like an idiot, I agreed. I thought we were on the same team. I had just handed him the keys to the kingdom, and he was about to change the locks. A few weeks later, the day of the big, company-wide town hall arrived. The CEO was on stage, hyping up the amazing work coming out of engineering. "And to tell you about the latest breakthrough that's going to redefine our future," he announced, "I'd like to bring up our visionary VP of engineering, Richard." My stomach just dropped. Richard walked onto the stage, beaming under the spotlight. And there, on the giant screen behind him, were my slides, my graphs, my data. He started presenting Project Chimera as if it had sprung fully formed from his own mind. He'd even renamed it. Project Chimera was gone. Now it was the Synergy Matrix. The name was so painfully corporate, so completely soulless, it felt like a punch to the gut. I just sat there, frozen, watching this man steal my creation in front of all my colleagues. The humiliation was crushing. He was getting a standing ovation for my work, for code he couldn't even read. In that moment, the naive developer in me died, and something much colder, much more methodical, started to take her place. As soon as the applause died down, I went straight for Richard. My hands were shaking, but my voice was steady. I cornered him by the coffee station. "That was my project," I said, my voice low but firm. "That was Chimera." He didn't even flinch. He just took a slow sip of water and gave me that condescending smile. "You provided the foundational work." "Absolutely," he said smoothly. "But it required my strategic vision to shape it into a marketable product. The Synergy Matrix is a result of my leadership." He was gaslighting me, twisting the truth with terrifying ease. He told me I was being emotional and not seeing the bigger picture. He said I needed to be more of a team player. The sheer nerve of it just stunned me. He stole my work and was now painting me as the problem for being upset about it. I knew talking to him was useless. The next morning, I went to HR. I laid out the whole story, explaining that I had the original code and the git commit history on a private branch to prove I was the author. The HR manager listened patiently, nodding and taking notes, but I could see it in her eyes. This was a battle I'd already lost. A week later, I was called back into a meeting with HR and Richard. It wasn't an investigation, it was a warning. They told me my accusations were creating a hostile work environment. They lectured me about professional conduct and respecting the chain of command. The message was crystal clear. It was my word against a VP's, and his word was worth more. The system wasn't there to protect me. It was there to protect him. I walked out of that meeting feeling completely powerless. The anger was still there, but it was no longer a hot fire. It was cooling, solidifying into something hard and sharp. I had built their entire world, and they let a thief claim its crown jewel. They thought they had put me in my place. They thought it was over. But I knew something they didn't. When you build the house yourself, you know where all the secret passages are. And more importantly, you know exactly which wall is holding the whole thing up. Now we get to the good part. They saw me as just another cog, forgetting I designed the whole machine. Years ago, when Nexus was just starting, I wasn't thinking about revenge. I was thinking about stability. A system this complex needed fail-safes. In a small startup where I was the primary architect, I had the freedom to build my own diagnostic tools deep into the system's core. And I built a very special one. Let's be clear, this wasn't some dramatic backdoor or kill switch. In the design docs, I called it the integrity check. Its purpose was simple: to verify the health and authenticity of every single module in the Nexus ecosystem. Now, in a mature company, a tool this powerful would never be left to one person's control. It would be documented, reviewed, and have tons of oversight. But this was the Wild West era of the startup. I was trusted completely, so I built it my way. Here's the simple version of how it worked. Every piece of code I officially wrote and integrated into Nexus was digitally signed with my unique, unforgeable fingerprint, embedded deep in the compiled code. The integrity check script was designed to do a system-wide audit, checking every active module against a master list of authorized signatures. Its original purpose was to automatically detect and quarantine any unauthorized code, like from a hacker, to prevent it from corrupting the system. As I sat there, stewing after my meeting with HR, a new, much more creative use for my old tool began to form. Richard, in his technical ignorance, hadn't just stolen my slides. He had taken a copy of my Project Chimera code before I had a chance to officially sign and merge it. He had then compiled and deployed it himself under that stupid new name. His synergy matrix, the supposed crown jewel of Nexus, was an imposter. It was an unsigned, unauthorized module running in the heart of my system. To my integrity check script, it wouldn't look like an innovation. It would look like a foreign body, a cancer. And I was the only person on Earth who knew how to tell the system to start looking for it. The plan came together in my mind, elegant and devastatingly simple. The integrity check script was dormant by default. Activating its deepest audit mode couldn't be done from any normal interface. It required a direct command pushed to an obscure, low-level configuration file that no one ever looked at, a file I created for debugging years ago and conveniently never told anyone about. The beauty of it was the command itself. It didn't look like delete database or anything malicious. To any other developer who might stumble on it, it would look completely boring. The line was just this: set.system.audit.level equals deep. That's it. 5 words. A simple configuration change. Anyone else would think it just turned on some extra logging. But I wrote the code that read that command. I had programmed deep to be the trigger word. It was the key in the lock. It was the command that would tell the integrity check to wake up, scan for unsigned code, and execute a very specific cascade of consequences. This is where the idea of malicious compliance came in. In the weeks before the big client demo, Richard was paranoid about stability. He kept sending frantic emails to the engineering team. We need to harden security. Run full system diagnostics. Ensure platform integrity is at 100%. He was, in effect, giving me my orders. I was simply going to comply. I was just going to run the real diagnostic, the one he had no idea existed. He was ordering me to build his guillotine, and I was more than happy to do it. All I had to do was wait for the right moment to pull the rope. Timing is everything. And the perfect moment was obvious. The company was about to close its largest deal ever, a multi-million-dollar contract with a huge client. The final step was a live demonstration of Nexus, scheduled for a Friday afternoon. And who would be leading that demo, showing off his synergy matrix as the grand finale? Richard himself. It was poetic. He'd be on stage, at the very peak of his fraudulent triumph, when the floor would just vanish from under him. I'd be lying if I said I didn't struggle with it. A part of me screamed that this was going too far. This could damage the company and affect my colleagues. Was my personal grievance worth all that? But then I'd remember his smug face as he stole my work and the cold indifference of HR. The company hadn't just failed to protect me, it actively protected him. They had made a choice that integrity was less important than a charismatic VP. My action wouldn't be an attack, it would be a consequence. A direct result of their own failure. The day before the demo, I did two things. First, I wrote my resignation letter, short and professional, and scheduled it to be sent at exactly 2:10 p.m. the next day, 10 minutes after the demo was set to begin. Second, I logged into the system's core scheduler and created a new automated task. At 2:05 p.m. on Friday, it would execute a single script that appended set.system.audit.level equals deep to that forgotten config file. By automating it, it would look like a pre-scheduled, routine diagnostic, not a real-time action for me. I was covering my tracks. I closed my laptop. The stage was set. All I had to do was wait. Friday arrived. I had put in a work-from-home request, citing a fake appliance delivery. I sat at my kitchen table, coffee growing cold, with a single terminal window open on my laptop showing a read-only view of the system's logs. I was just a spectator now. The hours ticked by. 1:30, 1:45. I pictured the scene at the office. Richard, preening in front of the client, running through his talking points. At 2 p.m. sharp, a Slack notification popped up from the head of sales. Kicking off the big demo now. Wish us luck. My heart started to pound. 5 minutes. At 2:05 p.m., I refreshed my terminal. And there it was. A new log entry, time-stamped perfectly. System_scheduler. Task ID 730. For be executed successfully. Appended configuration parameters to /var/etc/nexus/f. I held my breath. That was it. The line of code was in. The digital time bomb was armed. At 2:10 p.m., my scheduled resignation email went out. As far as the company was concerned, I was already gone. For 2 minutes, nothing happened. The silence was dreadful. Did I mess up? Did it fail? And then, at 2:12 p.m., my phone lit up. A message from my one trusted friend at the company, an engineer named Sarah. The message was just 5 characters. WTF is happening. A slow, grim smile spread across my face. It was working. What Richard and the audience saw wasn't a simple crash. That would have been too kind. My integrity check was designed for something far more systematic, all displayed live for everyone to see. First, the script found the synergy matrix. It checked for a signature and found none. It cross-referenced the code and found a 99.8% match with a module named Project Chimera on a private branch, authored by me. The verdict: unauthorized code. Next came quarantine. Live, during Richard's presentation, the synergy matrix just stopped working. The beautiful, dynamic graphs flatlined. Data fields went blank. Richard was left standing there, pointing at a dead screen, stammering about a temporary glitch. Then came the masterstroke, the rollback. The script was programmed to restore the system to its last known stable state. Live on the projector, the client watched in horror as the Nexus UI began to devolve. Modern features and sleek menus flickered and vanished, replaced by older versions from months ago. It looked like the platform was aging in reverse. And finally, the receipt. At 2:15 p.m., a system-wide, high-priority alert was automatically generated. This wasn't a quiet log entry. It was an email blasted to every single executive, director, and engineer in the company. The subject line was terrifying. Critical integrity failure. Unauthorized code module detected in production environment. The body of the email was my vindication, written in the cold, irrefutable language of a machine. It laid out the facts. Asterisk alert. Unauthorized module, synergy matrix detected. Asterisk reason. Module lacks valid author signature. Asterisk analysis. Cross-referencing Git history shows 99.8% code similarity to module Project Chimera. Author. My name, last commit. Date. Asterisk deployment log. Current module deployed by user. Richard's name. Asterisk action taken. System integrity compromised. Module quarantined. Services rolled back. Full audit log attached. It didn't just crash the demo. It sent a company-wide email that served as a full confession, complete with forensic evidence, naming the guilty party and proving my innocence. It was the gunshot, the smoking gun, and the ballistics report, all in one devastating package. The fallout was immediate and spectacular. My friend, Sarah, kept me updated. The demo was a catastrophe. The client had stood up and walked out, their faces a mask of contempt. The multi-million-dollar deal was dead. The CEO was reportedly livid. Richard, completely blindsided, tried to blame it on a sophisticated cyber attack, but it was no use. Dozens of people in that room, including the CEO, were already staring at their phones, reading the system's own detailed account of Richard's theft. He was caught red-handed, exposed by the cold logic of the very system he tried to claim as his own. He was fired on the spot. Security escorted him right out of the building. The visionary VP was gone less than an hour after his moment of triumph turned to ash. The next morning, I got a call from their legal department making vague threats. My lawyer, whom I'd already consulted, had a simple response. He pointed out that I had initiated a documented, pre-existing diagnostic script designed to protect system integrity. More importantly, he reminded them that the system's own logs proved their now-disgraced VP had committed blatant intellectual property theft. Any lawsuit against me would drag that embarrassing truth into the public record. They went silent. A week later, my lawyer got a letter saying the company would not be pursuing any action. They just wanted the whole thing to disappear. They chose to protect a thief, and it cost them millions. So where am I now? I took a few months off to just breathe. The story of what happened spread through the local tech community like wildfire. The tale of the stolen code and integrity check became a sort of digital urban legend. Far from being blacklisted, I found that my actions had earned me a certain reputation. The developer who wouldn't be pushed around. I ended up getting a job as a senior architect at a much better company, one that actually respects its engineers. During my final interview, my new boss leaned in and said, "I heard about what happened at your last place. We don't tolerate that here. We need people who build things, not people who just take credit." The moral of the story is simple. Never underestimate the person who built the house. They know where every secret is buried, and they know exactly which pillar to kick to bring the whole rotten structure down. Arrogance has a price, and sometimes that price is collected in a single line of code. So that's my story. What do you think? Was I justified or did I go too far? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for listening.